So, Melissa, tell us a little bit about your company and all that you do. You all do a wide variety of in a wide variety of industries. Tell us a little bit about it and how you got to start in that.
So, Hicks Corporation is a 61-year-old company. So
Hmm.
it started in 1963 with two brothers, the Hicks brothers, and started out in the screen printing and apparel decoration industry. Um, they got involved with heat transfer presses. So it's kind of heat pressing a design onto a t-shirt, which then eventually morphed into dough pressing. So same basic technology, and moving from the apparel and garment industries over into commercial food equipment, which is obviously a completely different market, but but
Right.
similar technology. So we are in the commercial food equipment business, as well as what we call Hicks Imprint.
Hmm.
In addition to that, we actually just acquired another company out of Dallas, Texas called Quick and Crispy, which is a commercial air fryer. So we've doubled down on the commercial food equipment side, and we are in the process of bringing our air fryer operations to our Pittsburgh facility.
Wow.
So,
A
yeah.
lot,
So,
lot going on there with that. Yeah, definitely.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Talk about your background a little bit and really how, how you got into manufacturing as a whole.
So I've been in manufacturing my entire career. Started out working for three different Fortune 500 companies with a division of Emerson Electric about 25 years ago now, and progressed. Actually worked in the oil field industry
Hmm.
with a company called Schlumberger for 10 years, and then spent my last stint kind of in the commercial world with Honeywell at the Kansas City National Security Campus. So each of those elements were kind of a different element of manufacturing, from control valves to wire and cable, and then eventually national security manufacturing. So,
Gotcha. Well, that's a wide berth of experience there with that, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
a lot of it. Was it something like I said, as being an owner now and as a leader, is that something you always had wanted to strive for? Or?
Well, so what became apparent while I was at Honeywell was the kind of the need for a U.S. industrial base. So really
Hmm.
U.S. manufacturing, and manufacturing itself being a national security issue. So the desire to go acquire a company was really born out of kind of what is it that I'm seeking to do long term,
Hmm.
and investing in U.S. manufacturing specifically was where that came from. So, put a 5-year plan together, and then exited in 2020, and eventually purchased Hicks back in January of 2023.
Right, right. Yeah. A good time to purchase something in 2020. Kind of a crazy period with that. Give me a nutshell here. How is manufacturing in the U.S. just quickly? How's it looking? What's the outlook? What are some of the things that challenges that you're going to have, or is there a lot of opportunities? I think.
Well, what you saw in 2020 was something that the defense side had been seeing. There was just a supply chain issues all of a sudden became very important to everyone. So, 2020 into 2021, you got this huge supply chain disruption. So all of a sudden,
Mm.
these long supply chains that extended overseas started to fracture. So you had this desire to look at domestic supply, and you saw a bubble form in several different elements. And so 2022 into 23 was kind of smoothing out of that supply chain bubble. So we've seen things come back to more similar to 2019 levels. So manufacturing is strong, but it's still competitive. For us, it's we acquired the commercial air fryer company because we want to be able to fill our factory here. So we're doing it with product development, but also with acquisitions. So
Right.
we're just getting the factory up and going full speed. So.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, you make a lot of things, and everything has to have a finish. And I don't know whether, you had much experience on finishes, whether it be, like I said, coatings or anodizing or plating. What was your experience with that from your past positions? Had you had much of that, or?
So some, I
Mhm.
initially started out in the control valve world.
Mm.
So material selection and finishes were important because they were in a lot of heavy industrial applications. So anything from power plants to pulp and paper mills, to, chemical operations. So it was just a variety of whatever you could throw at it.
Right,
Um, we were trying to keep the control valve up and going.
right.
Similar out in the oil field, you're just really trying to get things to survive down in these oil wells, and
Right. It's the most corrosive environment there is, I believe. That
yeah,
from what I hear from the people that do the finishes on that, it's most corrosive,
yeah,
and it's hard to do it with that.
yeah,
But like I said, it's any product, whether it's consumer or manufacturing, you want to have a good look to it, a good finish to it, because that's what people are going to look at and judge it by. So what we're talking about today is switching from the liquid coating to the powder coating. So had you all had any powder coating whatsoever in any of your manufacturing processes, or?
yes, absolutely. So we'd been in commercial food equipment. All of our
Mhm.
equipment was powder coated, and it was done externally. So,
Mm.
we had developed. Kind of into our system, but it was, an extensive lead time. We had to carry additional inventory. So it was something that outsourcing had a cost to it as well. Obviously, there's the price difference between doing it externally and internally, but also the inventory and lead time costs as well.
Right. Right. And so I know we're going to be talking to Phil here in a bit, but really, you all had made the decision to invest in a powder coating operation. There were several reasons. If you want to kind of talk about those a little bit of what those reasons were, I think of switching over to that.
Yeah, so our equipment is designed to last a long time. We've been known for high quality, and paint is one of
Mhm.
for us, especially on the Hicks imprint side, it can be a vulnerability. We want the products to look good, but we also want them to be protected. And powder coat as an option for those products was highly desirable. In addition to kind of the benefits I mentioned on the commercial food equipment side of things, having those operations in house to also take care of our Hicks imprint products was an absolute upgrade for our equipment from a durability, quality perspective, and kind of giving the these are products that can be visible to the customers, and so we want to keep them durable and looking good as long as possible.
Right. Yeah, and I know powder coating, the throughput is much faster. You're not having to wait for an extensive dry period. Is that pretty much what you all were seeing as well? Is that moving to powder would kind of increase that a little bit?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we can, if we have more on the fly changes or something needs to be prioritized, we're able to get the units through powder coat and into assembly's hands within the day rather than, waiting for our paint to cure. So.
Okay. What's the first step in a process like this for you all of going out, maybe finding out what is it that you want? There's a lot of newer technology that's come out. What was kind of the first step that you all took into determining that you wanted to make this transition, and really, was it bringing it in house? You said you had outsourced it, right? So bringing it in house a little
Correct.
bit more. Yeah. So what was kind
Yeah.
of the first step in that you had to look at?
So in 2023, we made an effort to really to reconfigure our manufacturing layout and to look at processes that would speed up and optimize our operations.
Hmm.
So powder coat was identified as one of those operations fairly early on, and so I can let Phil talk to the details of the extensive work that he did.
Hmm.
Um, but it was put on the table pretty quickly. The engineering and production teams investigated different options as far as whether what we build in house, what we have brought in from the outside, and then kind of what the operation obviously looks like as far as running through the facility. So the physical layout, was the physical location, modifying our paint operation space into a powder coat space, and what that would take. And so, it was over several months that we laid out kind of that plant layout, brought in suppliers to talk through, the powder coat process itself. We had a great resource in a powder supplier relationship that really helped us kind of work through the small details so that we didn't, lose a step when we were changing operations.
Right. Yeah. It is about the small details with a lot of that, but this is a big capex expense. It's also going to take up a lot of footprint, right? I guess those are things that you have to look at every time to see, because it's a pretty big investment for you all, right?
Yes. And so, we had that opportunity when like I said, we have a 110,000 square foot facility. We actually shrank our overall footprint. The footprint for the paint operations and the powder coat operations are identical. So, with powder, it's very important that you have part cleaning, down to a science, so you get that great adhesion. Unfortunately, we didn't actually have to modify our part cleaning operations because they were sufficient for powder as well.
Okay. So Phil, let's talk about this. Like I said, there's a lot of vendors out there, right? A lot of newer technology, I know, and like I said, this is not an inexpensive proposition. Well, like I said, what were you all looking for, and kind of what were you in the process of deciding who you were going to work with? How did that all come about?
Well, we actually manufacture and design conveyor ovens and some batch ovens here.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, we looked at the feasibility of whether we wanted to design our own oven. We had not in the past made ovens of this physical size, and so there was going to be a lot of engineering work done to create the design prints and drawings and so forth to manufacture it here. Not that we couldn't, but it just our engineering load was. Was being used elsewhere at that time. But we're very knowledgeable in oven design. It was one of the primary products we've been making since the 60s. So there's a lot of legacy information and design information that we had. So we knew about airflow. We've used CFD here and so forth and designed a lot of our products here. So we know a lot about airflow distribution and make sure that you don't have a lot of temperature variation through the oven chamber, which is important. So in that, we started looking at a lot of different manufacturers of ovens. And oddly enough, some of them weren't really, I would say, probably designed very well. And just by looking at the way they were handling airflow, was not, in our experience, something that's going to work very well. Oddly enough, we found a company that we ended up ultimately working with. It was actually one of the lower priced bidding, but they had a very nice design with the airflow, and just by looking at it, I could tell it was going to yield a good result, and it did. It didn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles and frills as far as different options for controls and stuff. Although it's got an HMI control and the control system does work very well. We're able to hold plus or minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the whole oven chamber, which is exceeded my expectations even.
Right.
That's a really, really tight tolerance to try to hold. They don't advertise that, but in our internal testing here, I have a system where I have a 12-channel recorder that I can put thermocouples all the way throughout that oven. And we did that, and it yielded that, and I was very, very pleased and surprised actually that it did that well, but it did. So, check that off as one thing I didn't have to worry about.
Wow, you sound like a true engineer, and I'm sure that because like I said, a lot of shop owners who are facilities are not taking that into consideration. Like you said, the airflow and those type of things to get a very consistent finish.
Right.
Some of them just miss that, and that sounds like something that you guys really wanted to make sure that it was up to snuff on that. Right, it's important.
Yeah. Because I don't know in industry, this isn't a real large oven, but it's 10 foot wide. It has 10 foot tall and it's 20 feet long. So it's for our applications is plenty big. But to have that good temperature profile through the oven is really essential for loading it up with a lot of different sizes and weights and thicknesses of substrates. So.
Right, right, yeah. I know the system that you purchased that gives you a lot of ability, quick changes and things like that. How important was that? Do you have a lot of those, or is that something you were
Oh,
seeing that you're going to?
right. Yeah, we have a lot of different sizes of
Mm,
parts. We have a lot of it, most all of it at this point is handled on through racks. So we're racking in and out of the oven. It has doors on both ends of the oven, so we can use it as a pass through
hmm
for larger things. But yeah, we deal with a lot of different sizes of parts, a lot of different thicknesses of materials, anywhere from 20 gauge sheet metal up to probably half inch is about the thickness that we, half inch steel,
mm,
and a lot of little parts, linkages, frames, sheet metal parts. So there's cure schedules for each one of those different masses of parts, which the crew back there that does the powder coating knows how long it needs to soak. And we did some testing in the very beginning to determine what the cure schedule was going to be based on the mass or thickness of the parts, and that's turned out to be very accurate and really have no problems.
right, right. I was going to say, yeah, that's something. Again, it's something people don't really think about. The size of the material, thickness of the material, how much you have to heat it, preheat it, and warm it. But like I said, it sounded like you all knew exactly what you were looking for to get those real top quality finishes that you needed to get.
Right.
Yeah, and like I said, you ended up. Was it the it was a Gemma system that you ended up? What are some of the features of that system that you added in?
Which system?
Yep. Was it a Gemma system that you all put in, or what system?
Well, as far as the oven itself or the
Or no, the actual the powder coating equipment that you put
Okay,
in.
I
Yeah.
wasn't involved in that particular portion. There's
Okay. Gotcha.
another people internally that picked that, and through the powder supplier, I do know it's a very versatile system.
hmm
Has a different amount of electrostatic charge that could be used, so you can dial that up or down depending on how much coverage you're wanting to get, and or actually repair parts that's previously been powder coated, which I thought that was a big no-no in
hmm
past experience, that you'd have to strip it, burn it all off and go at it again. But
hmm
actually, they've had some spots where they maybe had a little scratch or something on it, and they redid it, and you really can't tell. It looks really technology's come a long ways in
Right.
the guns since then.
Right. And like I said, the move from the liquid, like I said, of course, there's obvious environmental concerns as well. But like I said, throughput is important too, right? I mean, how are you
Right.
able to measure your throughput? It seems like you might be able to put through a lot more parts than what you had, especially to
I
to
think
cure them and get
so.
them dry. Yeah.
Dan might be able to speak a little bit more to that, but I do know in the past, when we were using acrylic enamel paints, and of course then you have to dry them, and depending on the time of the year, sometimes they dry pretty quick, sometimes they don't. We used to actually have a heat room at one time that, in the winter months and so forth, that we'd paint parts and they roll them out of there and you roll them into the heat room to try to get them dry because you're wanting to use them, later on that day. And,
Right.
with the powder coat system, you don't have that problem. I mean, you powder coat stuff in the morning and start assembling it in the afternoon.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
So,
So is Dan the one that handled the pretty much the powder coating prospect of it, or?
no, there was another individual here. He's since retired,
Mhm.
that did the selection and worked with the powder coated people to select the gun and everything that was used in this process.
Okay, yeah. So how long was the entire, I know was it 2023, I think is when you guys started really looking at this.
Mhm.
What was the time frame to kind of, once they came in and started putting things together for you?
Yeah, I'd say from the start to finish, it was about 3 months.
Okay.
From the time we got the oven on site and got it assembled and got the paint powder coated people in here, the guns, and we repurposed our spray booth that we used to use for spraying the liquids, turned it 90 degrees to allow a little better product flow out of that spray booth and into the powder oven. So we had that to work with, and there's a little insurity because it's fairly large. It's about the same size, about 20, I think it's 27 feet long spray booth. So it's fairly sizable spray booth that we use for painting some of our larger ovens and conveyor ovens and things of that nature. So we had to move that around, change the ductwork around, service and fire extinguishing system and so forth. A lot of that had to change at about the same time. So we really weren't down for very long. I mean, a lot of that was done over the weekends, moving the spray booth, and then we continued to do that until we got the oven installed and all the calibrations and everything done on it. So it went pretty a little smoother than what you'd think. So
right, yeah. Is that I mean, you said I think you had mentioned that you all had done some powder coating before, but was there additional training you had to put some of your staff through, your team
there was
through?
some, yeah. The company we buy the powder from, and also came in and did some training with the guns, and it really just about a half a day. It didn't take too long. It's fairly simple system these days, and actually the cleaning isn't near, at least in our experience, what it used to be, where you had 3 or 4 or 5 stages of cleaning and phosphate coatings and things like that. We just use a simple parts wash for most of it, or wipe down the larger sheets, with some solvents and clean, to flash off. And we've had no adhesion problems. In fact, we've had to, because of some of our products, which are powder coated, go into the food industry. You have to use an SF51 approved powder.
Right.
And then you have to go through the process certification, where you're checking for abrasion and impact testing and all those sort of things. So where they're checking to make sure it's baked on and the substrate was cleaned properly, so you don't have paint chipping off or abrading off and so forth. And we passed all of that as well. So which you have to have for all the food equipment.
Right. And when did the line? I guess when did it come on? When did it come on to being used? How long ago was that?
Oh, let's see. It was just before the end of the year, probably. I think it's November-ish. Yeah.
Okay. So you probably got 4 months into it. I mean, has it been everything that you pretty much expected? Any tweaking that you needed to do, or how?
It really has been almost trouble-free. I mean, it's just really haven't had any problems with the oven or the gun. Getting some of the process down so that the mill thickness, the training as far as, how much powder to put on. But we got a couple of guys trained to do that. And, we got a mill thickness checker we've been using to check thicknesses, just so that they're aware how much they're putting on. 'Cause you don't want to put on, more than you have to. Right. But it's really been a fairly easily implementation of the new process.
Right. And have you been able to quantify, I guess, the pass through the production increases yet, or is that something you're still?
I'll let Dan speak to that. I think it's probably better. I'm sure. I kind of see it from an arm's length, but it looks like it's flowing a lot better.
So yeah, Dan, let me ask you about throughput. Like I said, that seems to be the biggest thing, in manufacturing. Have you been able to, like I said, see some improvement by going to a powder system as opposed to putting the liquid coating on, or is that?
Yeah. So the powder system, the paint system, normally take us a full day and a half. By the time you paint, you got to let it set. You can't touch it till the following day. The powder system, we can turn around a part, as Phil was talking about, the thicknesses, different masses, but we can turn around a part in 45 minutes to an hour compared to waiting almost a full day. So the throughput is very significant in change.
Right.
If we've got a special order that comes through for a color variation from our standard, literally an hour and a half, we can have that to the line ready to go as long as we have the raw material ready.
Right. Yeah. How many different colors do you think you all will do in a given day or so? Is it
right now we're only working through really 2. We can do different options, but right now we're only working through 2. The certifications with it and the different labeling we have to be cautious on the NSF.
Right. Like I said, I know, Phil was talking about kind of getting it in and getting it set up and everything. Like I said, was it much of a learning curve for you all? Like I said, especially not just coding it, but, getting the parts, coordinating, getting the parts over there, getting them in, especially with the increased throughput. I mean, right. You can handle things better.
Yeah. So no, really, the training curve was fairly simple. Really, it took about a 1-day training because we had our paint crew, was knowledgeable about the overall coating process. So really 1 day and a half process. And then a few tweaks you learn through going through the process and actually doing it. But the training was fairly quick, and in a week or so, somebody could be very efficient at it because of the ease of the process. And then having materials there, yeah, we changed our process from outside vendors, but it actually really sped it along. We were actually getting ahead of our machine shop and our raw material manufacturing just because we could move so efficiently.
Right. And I know the big thing in manufacturing is how much you can control of every process, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure it was a pain to kind of ship things out, get them back in. That's
yeah.
got to have to be a big relief for you to kind of be able to control that whole process from start to finish on that then.
Yeah, so the lead times, automatically you reduce the lead times because if we got a week, 2 week, 3 week lead time on something we were sending out, and as I said, we can kick that out in an hour depending on the mass. That changes significantly right there. So then you reduce your inventory on the shelves and the need to have supplies on the raw material side. It really adjusts costs for us as well.
Right, right. Yeah, like I said, I guess you kind of wonder why you hadn't had this before, but like I said, I know this is it's not cheap, right? It's not cheap, and you
Yeah.
got to find the space for it to make all that work. And like I said, I guess sounds like it really worked out for you all in the end with really getting that all put together.
Yeah, very efficient, and it worked out very well, and it's seems to be much more durable than the standard paint. So as Melissa was talking about, we try to build some very robust long-term products, and this is something that falls right into the category of what we're trying to create here.
Yeah. How many shifts are you coding?
Just one shift right now.
Just
One
one shift
shift's
now.
able to keep up at the moment. We're
Right.
a little behind, but they're doing pretty good.
Well, I was going to say my other question was I know sometimes captive shops will open up those lines to other manufacturers to kind of fill if they have any openings. Do you see any need for that, or is it you guys pretty busy?
We don't have a need for it unless we were to add another shift or something. It's something we've discussed, but right now it's not an option we've pursued.
But no, like you said, as someone who at the end of the day, you're writing the checks and help putting all those things together. I guess it is a good investment to a company, to manufacturer, to make that switch. I guess you would recommend them, correct?
Highly recommend it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, it's something that, like I said, it seems like there's so many pluses. I know there's also the challenges with that, but overall, talking to Phil and everyone there, that you had it seems like you had the people that knew to ask the right questions from the very beginning, right? I mean, and that often helps to know what you want out of these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Phil could talk to you for days on ovens.
Right.
Which was the key element there from the design and size and capabilities. The challenge for us is whether we do kind of manual entry of parts or have an automated system. I mean, we've just allowed ourselves the ability to grow into an automated system. So,
Right.
this is something that's only going to expand with us.
Well, I was going to say that's one of the things I think it sounds like you all is that if you need to scale up, you can do it in a way with that, which is again smart. You don't want to think 10 years down the road you wish you had done something differently, but it sounds like you're ready for that. Hopefully it will come, right? I mean,
correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully it will with that. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time out and talking and explaining all that to us. I very much do.
Very much. I appreciate the opportunity, Tim. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.